Fab. So, thank you to everyone who's joined us this morning for this session around why brand sentiment matters more in a zero-click world. So my name's Dan Jenkins. I'm commercial director here at Wagida Digital, and a brief bit about us as an agency for those of you who aren't familiar with us or are learning about us for the very first time. We've been making the complex simple since 2011. So we're an award-winning digital agency. We've got three offices in London, St Albans, and Cheltenham. I'm speaking with you today out of our Cheltenham office. We've got Charlotte, my colleague, zooming in from our Hertfordshire office in St Albans. We're a full service agency, everything you need in one place. So, kind of four core services: digital marketing, website design and development, employer branding, and we are CRM experts. We're HubSpot partners. So, we do a lot of work in HubSpot and across other CRMs as well. But we work with a wide range of brands, both across the UK and internationally. And we have a wide team of experts, such as Charlotte, with expert in depth knowledge across multiple different areas of digital marketing and the digital landscape. So yeah, if you'd like to find out more, you'd be able to drop me a note after this session or click the link in the deck when we send across the deck, and I'd be more than happy to chat you through any of these areas and how we can support you. If we're not already connected on LinkedIn, feel free to scan that QR code. Let's get connected, and we can always take the conversation further over on there. But yeah, that's enough from me, and I'm going to very quickly hand you over to Charlotte. The session's going to be just under an hour, so we'll make sure that there's time for Q&A. But yeah, sit tight. Char's got some great stuff in here surrounding kind of digital PR, zero-click search, and what you and your brand can be doing. So over to you, Char.
Thank you, Dan. Morning, everyone. Please bear with me. I've had a chest infection this week, so I don't normally sound this way. But yeah, I'm Charlotte. I've been with Wagida Digital for over 4 years now. So I'm a PR strategist. So that means I work on the strategy and execution of PR across a wide portfolio of our clients. The same as Dan, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you're not already. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about PR afterwards, yeah, feel free to please drop me a message. So just going to run through what we're going to discuss today. So we're going to start with what brand sentiment actually means and why it's important, especially in the current search landscape. We're going to be talking about the role of digital PR in brand sentiment, how online trust signals can boost your brand sentiment, and we'll offer up some practical steps to improve your brand's visibility and trust in this AI-powered search environment. So first of all, what does brand sentiment actually mean? So to put it simply, brand sentiment is about how people feel about your brand and how they express those feelings online. So are they enthusiastic or frustrated? Are they recommending your brand to others? These feelings, whether they're positive, neutral, or negative, all make up the sentiment of your brand. So brand sentiment can be shaped by various different things. So, for example, how customers talk about your products or services. So the interactions people have with your brand on social media or on online forums like Reddit. The tone of the media coverage you receive. So if you're getting placements in national publications, for example, um, though from customers too. So are they negative or are they positive? So here's some examples of the various different trust signals that can help shape a brand's perception. So on the left, we've got an example of Trustpilot where people can leave reviews and ratings. Then we've got media coverage in online publications. So that could be publications specific to your industry niche or national publications like The Guardian, for example. Your messaging across different online platforms, is this consistent? Does it all marry up? Are you consistently telling the same story? Your socials and how you engage with your community online. So are you replying to comments, things like that? And lastly, your content on your website. So any blogs you have, your service pages, and also other platforms such as YouTube. So AI engines interpret sentiment as a proxy for trust and authority. So positive brand sentiment, increases the likelihood of being cited and recommended in those AI answers. And negative sentiment, on the other hand, can really reduce your brand's visibility, even if you have strong, high-performing SEO. So authority is now earned across multiple channels. Even if you have like an all singing, all dancing website, you need to be seen as authoritative in other online spaces to be able to show up in those AI answers. So it's no longer just about what's written on your website. Obviously, that is still very important, but it's about the overall feeling that people, customers have about your brand across the internet. So we all know how important it is to show up in AI results, especially as I think I read a statistic that there's now 60% of Google searches are ending without a click to a website. But you're not going to be recommended by AI engines as the best in your industry if you're the only one saying it. So when your brand is described I'm struggling with that word, similarly and consistently across platforms, AI is more confident in referencing and including it in answers. Consistency builds trust. So if you have mixed reviews or a lack of presence on some platforms, poor perception can really limit how often your brand will be cited. So your online reputation is now a ranking factor, similar to like keywords, things like that, because algorithms prioritize trusted content. Positive sentiment acts as a signal of quality, leading to higher rankings, more frequent mentions, and improved share of voice in both traditional search spaces and AI-driven searches. So you might now be wondering, so how do I get other people to rave about my brand? Introducing digital PR, which is what I specialize here at Wagada Digital. So digital PR involves outreaching campaigns to journalists to secure high quality brand mentions and backlinks from different online publications that are relevant to your brand. So the power of a high quality brand mention or backlink is enormous. It really supports SEO and awareness of your brand. Now, I'm mentioning brand mentions a lot because in the past, backlinks have been the be all and end all. But now, in this new search landscape, brand mentions are just as equally important. So, if you're getting coverage in online publications and they're not necessarily linking back to your website, that brand mention still holds the same value as a backlink. So by doing digital PR, you can really benefit from increased brand awareness, referral traffic, so people coming from one website to your website, and improve brand sentiment. And this will then gain greater credibility and visibility online for your brand. But how you're featured really matters. So if you do get placements, you need to think about, have you been featured in a positive or negative article? What is the whole sentiment of that article? So here on the screen, I've just got some examples of coverage we've secured for one of our travel clients. So this skip flagging piece, for example, we noticed this trend on TikTok that everyone was talking about skip flagging and how it's meant to be a travel trend that can save you money. And we asked our client to put together or worked with him to put together an expert opinion that we then sent out to journalists. And because it was like a timely hook, because everyone was talking about it on socials, we got coverage in quite a lot of publications. This is just one example in Time Out. So AI engines only learn associations if the content exists to suggest them. So to achieve positive brand sentiment, you need to have positive content around your brand mentions, if that makes sense. So for example, that skip flagging piece, because we've offered that expert commentary, we're giving people advice. This is seen in a positive manner. So you can offer expert advice or tips related to your industry to showcase that you should be a trusted brand and an authoritative voice in the space. So this is a case study for that travel client. And from the digital PR and SEO work we did, we saw a 68% increase in referral traffic to their brand's website. And we also saw a 38% increase in new users visiting the website as well. So this really shows how digital PR can help generate or get those new customers to your website. And this was all done through reactive digital PR, through industry trends, data-led campaigns, and thought leadership as well. So here's an example of me searching for the best restaurants in Soho, London. I was obviously hungry when I made this. And we can see in a second that all the sources that have been cited in this response are from authoritative online publications. So for example, you can see Forbes there. We've then got The Guardian, Wallpaper as well. So this really shows how digital PR can help you get cited in AI because we can get you featured, your brand featured in these online articles that is then pulling the information from. But every LLM or AI engine cites different sources as they use different search indexes, internal ranking systems, and paid partnerships, etc. So in this diagram from Ahrefs, you can see the slight overlap of different brands' AI engines cite. So for example, we've got Amazon and Wikipedia on there. But in the other like spaces, you can also see that we've got authoritative publications such as the Financial Times, Forbes, People, Business Insider on there. And these are the top 50 most cited brands in AI engines. And obviously, there was quite a lot on there, but there are commonalities between all of them. So, user generated platforms such as Reddit, review platforms such as CNET, and video-led content platforms such as YouTube and TikTok and online publications are really popular as well.
Shah, just
So,
very quickly, sorry, I've had a question come through around the balance between, sorry to interrupt, but I've had a question come through, it's quite timely. It's about the balance between um, industry specific content versus kind of, broader press, but high value and high authority. Do you want to go into a bit more just around that side of things? I think I'm
yeah,
understanding the question right. It's about
you,
sort of what in that plan, where should you be looking in terms of industry related and hyper focused versus the quality of the press,
yeah. So that would all depend on like the KPIs and the goals you're trying to achieve from digital PR. So what we do initially is do a competitor analysis. So we take a look at your competitors' backlink profiles and see what type of links and coverage they've got and how we can gain that coverage and brand mentions and backlinks to compete against them. So, for example, if one competitor had loads of coverage in various different like industry niche publications, then we would know that we have to build that as well if you're lacking in that sense. So yeah, it's all about looking at competitors and things like that as well. Does that make sense? Um, so yeah, Ahrefs completed a study that found that listicles are getting cited loads by AI engines, so like ChatGPT, Google AI overviews, etc. In fact, 43.8% of all page types were listicles. So to explain what a listicle is, there's an example on the right-hand side. Again, this is looking at the best restaurants in Soho, and this was taken from Time Out. So they basically ranked restaurants 1 to 10 of the ones that they believe are the best, and that is a listicle essentially. So again, you can use digital PR to get featured in these lists. Ahrefs also found that these lists were used by AI engines for both research and direct recommendations. So they're being used a lot in prompt responses. And 79% of the cited lists were updated this year. So another thing is it's really important to be putting out fresh content out there, especially for digital PR, making sure that yeah, your content is more likely to be surfaced. So video content is searchable insight. So transcripts from YouTube, TikTok, and other platforms are being used in AI answers. So that means if you have videos on YouTube mentioning your brand name, that could be essentially pulled into AI responses. So there's an example on the right. It's a very flattering photo of me, where you can see that we've got the keyword Black Friday in the caption and in the transcript as well. So this helps get your content found by putting those keywords in there. And it's also evergreen content. So the video we created was all about Black Friday tips. So this will be popular year after year. So when people are searching for Black Friday, this will reappear. So when you're creating this video content, try and create stuff that will do the hard work for you, like it is evergreen and it will consistently reappear. Journalists are also really pushing video-led content at the moment. So any press releases that you are sending out should try to include video as well, as they really want to repurpose these on socials, as the way people are digesting news and information has changed. Over three-quarters of news executives, in fact, have said that they're now investing in video and actively hiring creative journalists to produce social content. So I thought that was really interesting. And you can also see lots of examples here of different online publications that are already on TikTok and doing really well on there. So when this loads in a second, these are some examples of what publishers are already posting on TikTok. There we go. So we've got SheerLuxe on the left talking about M&S product reviews. In the middle there, we've got the Daily Mail talking about 7 facts that you might not have known about the festival Coachella. And on the right-hand side, we've got BBC News talking about how much they think the new Grand Theft Auto game will be. So I think this is really interesting to see how press releases can be adapted into this social first content that publishers want. So thinking about product reviews, expert tips, things like that. So yeah, if you have an expert in your brand that you want to push forward for expert commentary, make sure to video them. Like if you've got an opinion or a quote ready, just make them get in front of the camera. As a journalist, will really value that.
Sure, I've had a question come through. Sorry to interrupt again about AI search. So I thought I'd just mention it. It's connected with this because it's talking about social content and feeding through into AI search. So with this type of content, how much is that feeding through into, I guess, like I'm guessing, large language models like ChatGPT and those other platforms, aside from Google. How is this then? What's the relationship in that area?
As in, is social content ranking in?
Yeah, is this
Yeah.
feeding into the sentiment? I mean, you were talking about sentiment earlier. The question is more about how is this getting pulled in? Is this getting pulled into large language models? So, what are your thoughts in terms of is it sentiment? Is it about the content? But the relationship between this type of content and your brand being visible on large language models like ChatGPT?
Yeah, so I suppose it's a bit of both. So the brand sentiment piece around it, like getting like a publisher to post this on TikTok is obviously a massive win. They've got a massive audience. And yeah, that's even more brand awareness for you. And I suppose then you can then go and comment and engage with the comments on there, and that will really play into your sentiment piece. But as well, social video and content is ranking in AI. It is being referenced as references. So yeah, I think, yeah, it's really important and it kind of is the way forward for PR as well. Hopefully that makes sense. Um, whilst I'm talking about expert commentary, I just wanted to put this in there. So I was at a conference last week and the journalist Rob Woe was there. You might have heard of him, you might have not. But he's done a lot of interesting research into the rise of fake AI experts. So brands out there are submitting expert commentary to journalists, which is really good, really helpful. But the journalist has then found out that that person is completely fake. And this is obviously quite a big crisis in the PR industry at the moment. So it's really important that you are showcasing to the journalists that you are real experts. So make it as easy as possible for them when you're sending those comments in or press releases. Make sure to include links to your experts' LinkedIn, direct the journalist to your Meet the Team page so they can see you're a real company, you're a real person. Um, And Rob actually said that he's seeing about 70 a day new AI experts appear on just one journalist request platform. So this is a massive issue and something that journalists are taking really, really seriously. So yeah, just some tips there when you are submitting expert commentary. So now thinking about user-generated platforms like Reddit and forums, so they provide unfiltered opinions that shape AI responses as well. So Reddit answers product questions like search and engages with people's online perspectives like on social media. So this makes Reddit one of the most inherently commercial environments on the internet, not just because brands lead the conversation, but because the people do. They're coming looking for solutions, stories, social proof, and perspectives, and they do it long before they land on a brand's website. So brands should participate on Reddit as an industry expert, definitely not a salesperson. Being transparent is the most effective way to build credibility on Reddit. You can also get banned from Reddit for promoting, so make sure you check each one of the subreddit's rules, as each subreddit will have different rules as well. There's also a stat that 40% of posts on Reddit are commercial. So this is a really big opportunity for brands to jump on this platform and be a part of the conversation. So we've got some tips for the Reddit strategic framework. So we've kind of split this up into three different areas. So the first step is to observe. So understand the landscape on there before you actually engage. So identify some subreddits where your potential buyers are active, track which threads are already ranking in search by doing just some Googling yourself and seeing what comes up, and learn the culture of each community. Then after you've done that, you can move on to analyze. So you can monitor. Sorry if you can hear that horn. Our snack van is here.
That's the snack van, isn't it? I'm surprised you didn't call a break for 10 minutes because they do some good stuff down there. I can hear
Yeah,
that in the background.
sorry about that. Yeah, so then you move on to analyze. So you can monitor sentiment, keywords, and recurring customer questions and extract the insights in the same words prospect use to describe their pain points and evaluation criteria. And then lastly, you can then move on to engage, but make sure you engage authentically. Share useful expertise, avoid corporate language, and add value to conversations that are already happening. And as I mentioned before, communities will reject content that feels promotional, so definitely watch out for that. So, what does all this mean for brands? So, you really want to show up in conversations and be present in places where people are actively discussing problems, tools, and experience related to your brand or what you offer. So, places like Reddit, LinkedIn threads, or community space, etc. Build relationships with reviewers. So if trusted sites talk about you, that carries a lot more weight than what you say about yourself, which kind of goes back to my point earlier that you're not going to be ranked or cited in AI if you're the only person saying you're the best. So continue to work with journalists. So make sure to contribute expert commentary, get featured in those roundups, and stay on journalist radar so your brand appears consistently in relevant content. Sorry, I'm just gonna have to take. Sorry. Um, encourage and manage your reviews proactively. So ask happy. Sorry, Dad. One sec.
For those who missed at the start, Shah is doing a stellar job because she's doing this session with a chest infection and she was desperate to do it and has ploughed through. So she's doing a stellar job. So no problem at all, Shah. Take your
Sorry.
time.
Thank
Whilst
you.
you take your time because we've had a question come through as well. So there's no rush at all, mate. Can you give an example? Yeah, this I wondered how long it'd take for the first question around Reddit to come in because Shah, we got a question come through. Can we give an example of how we've used Reddit? And it's really interesting because obviously Reddit has had a massive resurgence in the sense that it's always been kind of there and a forum. But I think historically more considered for, subcultures and communities and hyper-specific online conversations and a very different kind of world. And Heather's just tagged onto that question in the chat here, with, in a B2B environment too. So, and giving some sort of examples. So, Shah, do you want to chat a little bit around, I guess, Reddit, the shift in the importance of Reddit, and how brands should quite specifically consider how they're using it, for their advancement, or any examples that you've got or we've got from, clients, customers, the team, anything you want to share around that side of things. So, use cases of Reddit and also considering it in a B2B environment.
Yeah, definitely. So I have got a slide a bit later on with some examples of different things that I've seen on Reddit that I think are interesting. But to give you some use cases on how we use it, so me specifically, I use it a lot for like digital PR campaign inspiration. So being able to go onto different subreddits. So for example, that travel client. There's a subreddit called like travel hacks or something, and loads of users put in there like various different travel hacks that they think are good. So I would go on there for like inspiration, have a scan through, see what people are talking about, like what are the pain points, what are things that people want answers to, and then that will really help me come up with a campaign idea. So really tapping into those pain points and be able to deliver a press release that um, yeah, that customers actually want to see or people want to see. And then also referencing that you've got like that initial idea or data from Reddit to journalists, they see that as really powerful as well. Because it's where like day-to-day people are discussing issues. Um, in terms of like B2B as well. So if you set up your own Reddit account, um, you can then like chime in with helpful advice, like not sell your brand or sell your services, but if you see that people are asking questions that your product or service provides a solution for, you can say, have you tried this? Maybe even like direct them to a helpful blog page or something like that. But the key is to be really helpful, transparent, and not salesy, if that makes sense. But yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully.
and what's the best practice in terms of, this hasn't come through, but I guess just in line with that, like what's the best practice with, users and user profiles and commenting as brand, and what's the done thing around all of that for how businesses can then actively, get in and start doing it if they're not
Yes.
already.
Yeah, so you can set up your own Reddit account like for your brand, where you can have like your own page and you can start a community on there. But you can also set up individual Reddit accounts as well for specialists in your brand or people that you want to have an authoritative voice on there. So, for example, I might set up a Reddit account called uh, Shah PR Wagda Digital or something. So then people can instantly see that I work in PR, I work at this company called Wagda. And yeah, you can offer up your specialist expertise that way as well.
Yeah, Louise has actually popped in the chat there with Reddit. Does the account need to be your company or personal? So I guess that's kind of answered that in terms of that balance, right?
Yeah, yeah, so you can definitely have both. But yeah, I just so the personal one I'd use that more for like commenting and engaging with other people, whereas your brand platform, that's where you want to like build your community. So that could be where you're posting updates, things like
Mm,
that.
fab.
Um,
Thank you, Shah.
no worries. Yeah, so with reviews, make sure you encourage and manage your reviews proactively. So if you've hopefully got some happy customers, ask them to leave reviews and make it easy for them to do so. So even send them a link to your Google Business profile page, like where they can easily click to review. And as well, if you ever have any negative reviews, make sure that you try and address those issues publicly where appropriate, so that either future customers or current clients can see how you deal with situations like that. And again, that will really contribute to your brand sentiment. And then lastly, invest in video content with clear value-led messaging. So as AI can now extract meaning from video transcripts, make sure that what you say um, is how you want to be presented online. So create videos that explain your products, answer common questions, and that can go along with your press releases as well. So now I'm going to talk about how you can actually come up with PR content ideas. So I'm just going to talk through this diagram from SEMrush. So this basically shows a query fan out, which is an AI search system process where an original question or prompt that a user puts in is then broken up by the AI engine into multiple sub questions, which it then pulls information from all these different sources to try and answer all these different sub questions. And then all of that is combined into a single response. So AI engines use this to better satisfy search intent, so what that user is actually looking for. So by considering different angles and interpretations of the user's original query, this allows the AI engine to provide richer responses that cater to that user's needs. So here's an example of me searching for the best running trainers for someone new to running and wants to run a marathon. I was obviously feeling inspired after last weekend. Um, so I asked ChatGPT to give me examples of the best trainers, and it then gives me a whole list of different product recommendations, including links to buy the products directly, the exact prices of the products, review ratings, things like that. Then you'll see that I click this extension in the top right-hand corner. Hopefully, there we go. And you can see a breakdown of what ChatGPT actually used and did. So in here, you can see that they used this query fan out. So the prompt was best running shoes, beginners, marathon cushion stability. So because I said I was a beginner, it knew to look up information to do with cushion stability as well. And through this, you can also see the links to the different products it's cited and the different publications it's used for its recommendations as well. So this is a really helpful tool called Backlinko. So it is a free Chrome extension, and it's really good for looking at the different query fan outs that ChatGPT is using when you're putting in prompts. So you can then use this to plan your content around, as you can use these different prompts as inspiration. So you can see what other queries AI engines and users are asking. You also need to have a think about what you actually want to talk about when you're doing PR. So, crafting a compelling message is one of the most important things. So, it has to be concise, to the point, but eye-catching and newsworthy enough to grab the reader's attention and the journalist's attention. So, make sure that your brand values, tone of voice, and personality come through. So, again, make sure that you've got that consistent messaging across all of your channels. Have a think about if you can find any relevant or current compelling statistics or facts related to your content that could act as a really good news hook. Um, you could also have a think about the different awareness days throughout upcoming months. So, are there any that are coming up that could link to your brand or the story you want to tell? And also see what's happening in the news at the moment. Journalists love like reactive comments off the back of an existing trend. So yeah, constantly monitor the news as well. You could also use social media for inspiration. Sorry. So this is something we do a lot of here at Wagada. So using TikTok, Instagram, as these all surface like real-time interests and show the early signs of emerging trends. So um, yeah, if you see an emerging trend, you can jump on that if it's relevant to your brand and send a press release out. Journalists love that as well. So just some examples there. So on the far right, I just typed in summer holidays 2026, and you can see someone's talking about like the 10 cheap holiday hotspots to go big in 2026. And then we've also got like the top 10 summer holiday destinations. So that's what people are looking for. So why not make a press release about that? So this was the slide I was talking about earlier. So Reddit is another place you can find lots of inspiration. So have a look at the type of questions that people are asking on different subreddits. So for example, here I've seen multiple people asking for advice on where to go. So you could put a press release again in line with the TikTok trends as well, top places in Europe to visit this summer. So now thinking about how to measure success for brand sentiment. So there's various different tools we use here to measure this. But one key thing I would say is you need to move beyond just traffic as your primary metric of success. As I mentioned before, I think it's 60% of user searches now end without a click to your website. So we all know that traffic clicks have gone down. So yeah, we use various different tools such as Ahrefs and Searchable, but you really want to try and track your share of voice on AI. So we use Ahrefs to look at that. How many brand mentions you're getting in AI. So we use Searchable for that. And you can also see in Ahrefs how many unlinked mentions they're called, I think, you have for your brand's website. So you can track those in there. We use Hootsuite to look at sentiment on social, so if it's positive or negative. And then you can also just type in some prompts into ChatGPT or other AI engines to see what comes up. Like, is it your competitors? Are you being found there? Yeah, and just see what comes up. So some key takeaways. So you want to build a consistent brand narrative across all of your channels. So as I've mentioned a few times, your content and messaging needs to marry up across your website, social, press releases, etc. Invest time into digital PR to get those high quality brand mentions and backlinks, as that will really help your visibility. Manage your online reviews and try to deal with any issues publicly where appropriate. Create content that really demonstrates your expertise and puts you as the trusted voice in your industry. Monitor your brand sentiment across your channels and engage with your audience. I think that's so important to really build that community. And lastly, probably the biggest tip, make sure that your SEO, PR, social and content teams are all working in collaboration to achieve the same goals. And this is vitally important now with the search everywhere landscape, with how users have changed how they're searching and finding brands. And that's the end.
Fab. Well done, Shah. Thank you for that. I've just put a note in the chat that we're going to open up for a bit of a Q&A now if anybody has any questions. But yeah, shout out to Charlotte for kind of powering through with the chest infection as well. But you've done a great job. So there are loads of valuable content in there. So yeah, thank you for that. Before we have any questions, I think you had a couple of slides on a couple of bits we wanted to go through, Shah, just in terms of next events. Is that right? Just to let you know,
Yeah.
I have put a thing in the chat about this, but we've got the HubSpot Exchange coming up in London. So some of you might have received email comms around this already, but if anybody's interested in finding out more about HubSpot or you are already using HubSpot and you want to get more out of it, get yourself registered. I've popped a link in the chat. Spaces are limited, and I know that there's quite a few subscriptions already, but I think the link is still active. So go through there and have a look. We're going to have a complimentary breakfast with some talks, networking discussion at the Everyman Cinema in Broadgate in London, just around the corner from HubSpot's London office. This is a Waggadah event, so yeah, do feel free to get yourself registered. But one that's going to be really valuable, we've actually had a question already come in that I'll cover off in a sec, which is kind of more connected to this. But we've got a webinar coming up in June on how to map out your content plan for answer engine optimization. So today's is kind of part of a series of webinars really that are all interlinked with regards to the whole, generative engine and answer engine optimization landscape. So this is going to be a great event. We've got a couple of real experts on here, Dom and Annie, who look after this side of things for us here at Waggadah. So I'm really looking forward to this one, and I'll see you again on the 11th of June. But we will now open up for any questions. I've had one come through that I'll just cover off. Feel free to pop any more in the chat that I can put to the room, or we'll open it up and you can unmute and ask a question directly if you'd like. But we've just had a question come through privately, which is what are the most important tactics for showing up in ChatGPT? So any thoughts? I know we've sort of covered off some aspects here and it kind of crosses over a little bit more into the AI search space, but what would you say are the biggest considerations, either from what you've shared here or otherwise, that when we're talking about specifically AI search, and I guess not just ChatGPT but other large language models as well?
Mm. So I think, sorry, I've just seen that QR code's broken. Sorry.
Oh, no
Um,
problem. I've put a link in the chat to that. So,
okay,
yeah,
thank
you can
you.
grab it through there.
So I think what is really important to appear in like this AI landscape is a multi-channel approach. So really good SEO is a given, like you need to have that. But I think digital PR, social, like they all play into one another. And it's kind of what this webinar's all been about. Like it all helps with your brand sentiment, and that's what gets you featured in the AI responses. So making sure that all your channels as well are working in sync. So repurposing content on different channels, making sure you've got the same messaging, um, and yeah, really building your, I suppose, your online presence and profile through like the brand mentions we talked about, and things like that.
Uh, Thanks, Shah. Um, we had some great feedback coming through. Everyone's really enjoyed the session and just giving you a
Uh,
massive shout out, mate. So
ah,
well
thank
done
you.
and thank you very much. Would anybody like to unmute? Did anybody have any questions? I know we've had a few that we've tackled as we've gone through. Did anybody want to unmute or get any final questions through now whilst we're in the room? Good. Well, I think that tells me that we've got everything covered off. So, oh, hang on, we've had one come through. Louise is asking, how do you get in touch with journalists? So I
Yes.
know we've got obviously there's some things that you might want to share, others that the Waggadah way of working, I suppose. So, but if you were giving advice to brands that wanted to build those relationships, what would you suggest?
Yeah, so there's multiple different ways. One which I do think works really well is reactive journalist requests. So that's when journalists are putting out there that they need an expert to comment on a piece that they're already writing, for example. So there's tools like Quoted that you can look at. So that's spelt Quoted. And that is like a platform where journalists submit loads of requests and you can respond as an expert directly to them in the platform and hopefully get featured that way. There's also a number of different tools where you can find journalist contact information. So there's a tool called Roxhill, and that's kind of like a media database. So again, but you need to make sure that the journalists you're outreaching to are relevant to the story you're trying to tell or the press release you're sending out, because they receive hundreds of pictures a day and they've told me that if your subject line isn't newsworthy or anything, they just press delete. They don't even read your press release. So it is really tricky to get featured. But if you've got a compelling story, if you've got a really good press release, yeah, that's how you cut through the noise. But you can also do manual research. So Googling or ChatGPT topics that are related to your press release. You can see the different journalists that are writing about that, and you can then like Google and try and find their details that way as well.
Fab. Thank you, Shah. Couple of questions. Jenny is saying, was that Box Hill you mentioned? Did you say Box Hill?
Rox
Oh,
Hill,
sorry,
so
Roxhill. Yeah.
R
But is that the spelling? Just what you got? Yes, yeah. But Roxhill, yeah.
R O X
Yeah.
H I L. Yeah.
Fab. Fab. Roxhill. And no problem, Jenny and Tracy. How could all this apply to a charity in terms of encouraging fundraising or connecting with the organization and becoming a supporter?
Mm. So I think charity work is like one of the most exciting things you could do, like with digital PR. I think there's so much you could do around it. Obviously, depends what type of charity you are, but I think definitely working on like a campaign level in terms of coming up with a big idea to promote the charity and then putting that across all of your channels, and tying it in on social, um, sending out press releases for it. And journalists love to hear about good news because there's so
Yeah.
much bad news. I think if you promote like different stuff that you're doing, and create a really big campaign around it, that can work really, really well. Um, so yeah.
I think on that as well, in the third sector, especially if it's a charity that works with a lot of kind of individuals or a lot of people, or you've got people that are doing
Mm,
fundraising or activity, you've also got that fantastic opportunity for like a high volume of user-generated content and how to
yeah.
encourage people that are already engaged with the charity or already doing good work or already have stories to tell to kind of play a part in that. And that can
Mm.
massively help, right, Shah, with like the amplification of what the charity's doing by driving what content we can harness from individuals.
Yeah, definitely. And again, that would play into like your brand sentiment as well, like seeing other
Yeah,
people, so many people talking about your charity, supporting it, like that's all very positive. So in turn, that'll have effect on like positive brand sentiment as well.
yeah, yeah. Fab. Thank you, Shah. Any final questions before we call time? No. Brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much. There's more positive things coming through. Thank you, Heather. Yeah, I hope you feel better soon, Shah.
Thank you.
Lots of positive feedback in the chat as well. So, yeah, thank you to everybody who joined this session. As I say, there's a couple of links I popped in the chat. We'll also send all of those to you in the follow-up. You will get a copy of the deck. You will get a copy of the recording. If you'd like to find out more genuinely about how we can support you with digital PR, link building, brand sentiment, large language model search, and this search everywhere landscape as we're coining it, do not hesitate to drop me a line on LinkedIn, drop us an email, and let's just take the conversation further. But again, huge shout out, kudos, and thank you to Charlotte. Have a lovely bank holiday weekend, guys, when it finally comes around, and best of luck on your journeys with your digital marketing.